Imagine for a moment that you wake up and feel that the world around you is quieter than ever. A silence that goes beyond the lack of cars outside or the ticking of the clock on the wall. It's the kind of silence that doesn't just exist in the environment, but seems to be within you, between you and the rest of the world. Every movement, every word, every attempt to connect with others seems wrapped in this invisible veil that makes everything feel distant. This is the first symptom of a growing danger in our society: social isolation. We live in an era of connectivity. The internet has brought the world into our homes, and the promise was clear: we will never be alone again. But, ironically, this promise has turned into a paradox. More than ever, we are experiencing a shared loneliness, an emotional disconnection that no like can fill. Studies show that social isolation can be as harmful to health as smoking or a diet high in sugar. And we're not just talking about mental health. Isolation affects our immunity, cardiovascular system, hormones, and even life expectancy. It's a subtle process, almost imperceptible at first. Maybe you started distancing yourself from some friends, stopped attending social events, or gradually got used to a solitary routine. At first, it feels like a choice, something you can control. But without noticing, the line between the comfort of solitude and isolation blurs. Suddenly, conversations that used to bring joy feel like a burden, contact with others creates discomfort, and you start avoiding interactions. This is the starting point of social isolation, which, like an invisible poison, creeps into our routine. Don't be mistaken. Social isolation isn't just about being physically alone. Some people surrounded by family, friends, and even co-workers can feel a profound loneliness, an emptiness that no presence can fill. This type of emotional isolation is even harder to identify and confront because often we ourselves can't understand why we feel this way. Modern life pushes us towards a rhythm where being productive, efficient, and independent is seen as ideal. However, in pursuing these goals, we drift away from the connections that really matter. We get lost in small, automatic interactions, increasingly less genuine, and we find ourselves immersed in a crowd where no one really sees each other. For many, isolation begins as a choice. Take the example of someone who chooses to distance themselves from social gatherings to focus on their career, studies, or other commitments. However, this choice can quickly transform into something beyond their control. Imagine a young professional pouring all their energy into work, putting in extra hours, accepting all demands, and postponing meetings with friends or family. In no time, this person grows accustomed to the solitary routine, and when they realize it, they no longer have the energy or desire to go out. Or perhaps it's an elderly person who watches their children, friends, and relatives drift away over time. Visits become increasingly rare, until suddenly they realize they live in a permanent silence. And this type of isolation is not only an emotional problem, it brings deep physical consequences. Without social interactions, our brain suffers. Prolonged loneliness weakens parts of the brain associated with memory, concentration, and even emotional control. Studies show that isolated people are more likely to develop health problems like heart disease, high blood pressure, and even Alzheimer's. This is because social isolation directly affects the immune system, which reacts to loneliness and stress in much the same way it would to a physical threat. It's as if our body is always on alert, releasing hormones like cortisol, which in excess damages the heart, lungs, and brain. Isolation also robs us of something fundamental, a sense of purpose. When we are alone for too long, we start questioning our own worth. Without someone to share experiences, successes, or even the difficult moments with, life begins to lose its spark. This is fertile ground for mental health problems such as depression and anxiety. Before long, the person who was once independent and self-sufficient finds themselves trapped in a cycle of self-criticism, hopelessness, and lack of purpose. This emptiness can make us prisoners of our own thoughts, making it even harder to reconnect. So, what can we do to avoid this cycle? First, we need to understand that social isolation is not a sign of weakness. We are all susceptible to it, and preventing it is as important as preventing any other illness. Reconnecting with others takes effort, but it can be done gradually and intentionally. Start by talking to someone, even if it's a brief interaction. Dedicate time to make a call, arrange a meeting, create a moment for socializing. And don't worry about being interesting or having something to say. Simply sharing presence can be enough to begin breaking the ice of isolation. Technology, though one of the causes of this issue, can also be an ally. Communication platforms and social media, when used consciously, can bring us closer to people who truly matter. However, we need to learn to distinguish between a superficial interaction and a genuine connection. Instead of automatically scrolling through the feed, why not send a direct message to someone you miss? Instead of just liking a photo, try starting a conversation. Small gestures like these can make a big difference, both for the person reaching out and the one receiving it. Another important step is to be aware of the signs of isolation in those around us. Sometimes a friend, neighbor, or even a coworker suffers in silence, but doesn't know how to ask for help. A simple gesture of reaching out, like asking how they are or inviting them for a chat, can make all the difference. By cultivating these connections, you not only help those around you, but also strengthen your own support network, creating bonds that can be valuable in difficult times. For those already caught in the cycle of isolation, seeking professional help can be essential. Therapists and psychologists can help identify triggers that lead to isolation, assisting the individual in rebuilding their sense of worth and belonging. Group therapy, for instance, is a way to regain a sense of community and share experiences with others facing similar challenges. Recognizing that we are not alone in our pain is the first step toward healing. One key step towards breaking isolation is also being able to open up to small, yet meaningful connections with strangers. Imagine striking up a conversation with someone at a coffee shop or sharing a moment with a fellow commuter. These small interactions can start building a sense of community and restore our ability to engage. No interaction is too small because each connection reawakens our natural human need to belong. Fighting against social isolation is a battle for our humanity, our mental health, and our right to happiness. We've never been so connected and, at the same time, so separated. It's time to reclaim what truly matters: presence, contact, voices, laughter, and the embrace of those we love. Because in the end, the true value of life lies in the connections we form, the moments we share, and the certainty that, no matter how alone we may feel, there is always a way back to feeling that we belong to something greater than ourselves.